And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. A Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This Vlogcast started as a combination because, well, there's just too damn many things to talk about. And I'm a little off because right now in the corner of my screen where normally I would get the real quick, hey, you're live and on air, that then goes away, I've still got this box in the big corner over here that's reminding me about something that it just told me about in a warning screen 2 seconds before we went live. Thanks, Google.
So you're a little frustrated?
A little bit.
You should take the Andy Kaufman methodology of relieving frustration.
Yeah.
Her and her. Oh, and definitely her.
Yeah, see, the problem is I can't.
Anybody who has not watched Man on the Moon needs to watch it. The guy was a genius in terms of playing a joke or prank on somebody.
I don't know about that. All I can say is we're on YouTube, not RedTube, so I can't take care of that frustration now. Part of this is to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. You see what I've got right here? I've got coffee. And you want to know what the bad part about the coffee is right now? I have no milk and I have no creamer. So all I have in here is some cream of mint and some hot chocolate mix to try and cut the taste. This is not going to be one of those good.
Hi, Phyllis. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Doctor. Hi, Trippin.
I can't hear tech, so yeah. I'm gonna have to come back.
Okay, you do that.
Well, some people would say that's a blessing.
Meanwhile, let me at least get everything started properly. Good evening, everyone. I am your main host. I'm Shujin Tribble, Shujin. Find me pretty much everywhere under that. And I'll tell you one of the other things that's kind of got me a little flustered also when that's all comes back. Top left-hand corner of the bingo card, North America. Evening, Dalan.
Good evening.
Feels like only yesterday.
Yes, it does. And I don't know. I've mentioned decaf before, but
it's got nothing to do with that right now.
Honestly, I think at this point, like, dude, as someone whose heart has had a near miss or two in his lifetime, dude, dial it back. It ain't that important.
No, see, it's just the annoyance factor of you. We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it in a second. Down and to the right, in the middle of the U.S., somewhere, give or take, where it stopped being torrential rain and
for now
until
tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, it came up here the other day. Whatever you had.
Like the next 10 days, no big deal.
Brigid, good evening.
Good evening from the land of fatal funerals.
Yes, we know. Unfortunately, outside of. Outside of the place known as, hey, we've got a new top level cabinet position available today, the end of this month. UnrenownedTech, good morning.
Dude, she quit a long time ago.
Checked out, more like, but that's a whole other thing.
I think the Kool-Aid was starting to take effect.
Yeah,
and starting to make sanity instead of insanity. How are you doing this morning? And Phyllis likes Dan's background, or Dalan's background. I'm sorry, I forgot the L. I know there was an L in there somewhere. We will find the L.
This is not
L.
the Christmas season. We're not going to start with that joke. Out in Paris, give or take, friends. Good morning, Joseph. You're back.
Good morning.
And you can hear everybody now, huh?
Yeah.
Love it when a plan comes together like that. So yes, everybody in the live chat, thank you very much for being with us. Okay, really a couple of real quick things to explain this whole thing. Dalan and I, you guys know full well, Dalan and I do our streaming thing on Friday nights. So it was 24 hours ago, and we were talking about various things, including, amongst other things, how much we enjoy people who are technically versed, but only just so much to be dangerous when they are salespeople.
Yes.
Yeah. So right now, that's the kind of thing that I'm feeling like, because I got a warning that said that the system that we are using right now, which is the old Google Hangouts, in order to get everybody together to do the show, is going to be going away later this year, and it's going to be replaced with a new thing. Okay. So when I go to start the show, I got a little warning that said, okay, by the way, this is going to be going away. You're going to need to use this new system. So just be aware of it. Okay. And all right, you let me know about it. Great. Good. I hit go ahead, start streaming. Normally I get a little thing in the corner that says, hey, you're now live. And it fades away. And it's a very stark blue button. It's not really a button, but it's a blue field. This time it was a much bigger blue field that said, you're live. Oh, and by the way, this system is going away and you might want to go. Gave me the same information from the previous screen. So it's just like, guys, you told me once. Don't need to tell me again because I'm in the middle of streaming. So why the hell am I going to be looking over there? Thanks ever so much.
You know, it kind of reminds me of the Microsoft Office. Like if you ever write anything in Microsoft Word. So
help me if you bring it, if you resurrect goddamn Clippy.
I do not have the meme foo to even think of wanting to do something like that. No, what I'm talking about is
smart tabs.
No, you start typing in dear something. And all of a sudden, a little thing pops up as, hey, it looks like you're trying to write a letter. Would you like to browse one of our many templates to help you along? Because we at Microsoft think you're an idiot?
Yeah, of course, because you're on Microsoft.
Yeah, that's Clippy.
When I was working retail, I forget which edition of Microsoft they retired. Which version of Microsoft Office where they officially retired Clippy but replaced him with Smart Tabs. And the Smart Tabs demonstration that they were giving at the event that I was at seemed to be incredibly intrusive and very... It was very distracting, especially for somebody like me who is a touch typist, knows where the keyboard shortcuts are, and I don't tend to use the mouse on a lot of the interface. And so they asked if we had any questions. I raised my hand. I got called on. I said, okay, so out of curiosity, how do I disable Smart Tabs? And the guy who was giving the presentation, now the guy wasn't any bigwig. He was just somebody hired, through contract to give the presentation. He said, well, that's a really bad question. Next question. Mm-hmm. And yeah, exactly. And I when he said next question, I was like, okay, I'm out of here. See ya. And I started to walk out. One of my coworkers stayed behind and he said, dude, you missed it. And I said, missed what? And he goes, you walked out and everybody else asked the same exact question. And when he refused to answer it, everybody walked out. Everybody filled out the survey, all negative reviews. We never saw that guy again.
Good. That's kind of the way to do it.
Tech, guy, though.
Yeah. Tech, do you play or have you played Diablo before?
Oh, doesn't everybody have a phone? Yes, I saw that.
You just answered my
yes,
question.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And I have, except for the latest one coming out soon, because there's no way in hell I'm paying $200 for that. For all the previous versions, I have all the collector's editions, deluxe, and everything else. Yeah, I'm a Doom fan, but I'm not a $200 collector set Doom fan at this point in my life.
Yeah,
just don't have the capital.
Yeah, just to give some context, I think it was at BlizzCon this year or last year. Blizzard was going to unveil their next Diablo product. Now,
not the one recently, the one before this one.
The one before. The one before. You're right. Yeah. Anyways. So what happened was everybody's expecting something to do with Diablo 4 because it's been a while. Diablo 3 is quite a cult following. I'll admit I do like it. But anyway, so they get all this hype. Everybody's just, frickin' vibrating, waiting for the announcement. And what do they announce? A mobile game.
Yeah, that's right, folks. One of these cell phone.
And not only a mobile game, but a cheap-ass mobile game that apparently was a copy of another game in terms of mechanics and overall feel. And so they were asking, we'd like to, turn it over to the audience. Does anybody have a question? And one guy pops up and he said...
Wait. Before you say what he asked, the guy who got the first question was one of the most top-rated Twitch streamers for Diablo, Blizzard Entertainment games. Okay, this guy brings notoriety to Blizzard, specifically Diablo. He's got a huge following. I mean, this wound up on his YouTube channel and everything. This is not this was not some local yokel asking the question. But go ahead.
Yeah. So the question he asked was, is this some kind of belated April Fool's Day joke?
Because it had just passed.
Yeah, in front of thousands of people in attendance, or hundreds of people in attendance, thousands of people watching, and YouTubers who like to make a buck off of misery going, yes!
I mean, and the worst part was, rather than the people on stage taking it elegantly, professionally and with dignity and honor and going, we understand that you may feel that way, but we're trying something different here and we'd like you all to give it a chance, right? Instead of going that route, they basically laid on the sarcasm and started attack, and basically, they went, doesn't everybody here have a cell phone? And I mean, it was like, dude, guys, you are going in the wrong direction if you want people spending money on your platform. And it just went downhill from there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta love it when a plan doesn't come together like that.
Well, just
anyway,
again, yeah, this all rolls back to what you're talking about, salespeople.
Yeah. Well, but funny
enough, we
didn't
kill Kipley. I killed Clippy when I took the 20-pound sledgehammer to my computer.
Yeah. Now, what Tech was talking about, asking a question, not getting an answer, and then walking out, and then everybody else following up with the same question, that's going to be important later. Trust me. Yes, that was an intentional Bobby Brady.
I know exactly where you're going with that too, so I'll let you lead into that one.
I hope so, because it's time to change. I'm sorry, there's a lot of people right now that are just going, oh, dude, really? Sorry. Time to I gotta cut that out. This is gonna be one of those long nights. Anyway,
go for it, man.
Let me get everything rolling proper over here, because I'm gonna do something that I normally don't do. So with 5 minutes on the clock, your 5-minute freestyle starts right now. Deputy. Now, the reason why I'm doing this, and the reason why I say that I don't normally do this, and I couldn't tell you the last time I have, I actually missed a piece of information from my 5-minute freestyle last week because I was talking about changing my mind about stuff. And it turns out one of the things that I ended up changing my mind about is gun control. Yeah, I know. It's one of those topics that is very divisive right now in the U.S., and I understand. There are people that make some very, very good arguments for having guns, not the least of which is, well, if you can't trust the police to protect you, you need to be able to protect yourself, so you need weaponry to protect yourself from the overbearing tyranny of bad cops or bad government agencies. You get the idea, and I understand that. I'm kind of on board with some of these arguments, not all of them, not necessarily that one either, though I do see some of the merit with it. But again, it's another one of these convoluted, wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey, context matters kinds of things, and there's no good answer to any of it. There really simply isn't. But there's one thing that has kind of come to my mind recently, and I was going to add it into last week's freestyle, and I just didn't get the moment to do it. It's the idea that there are so many people that, for whatever reason, believe themselves that if they have a gun, they are then able to stop a bad guy with a gun. We've heard this argument before. The only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is to have a good guy with a gun. Okay. There is something to be said for that argument. No lie. But we run into a small problem that the unintended consequence. And that question is this: do I trust, should I trust my life in the hands of someone, A, I don't know, B, I don't know if they're trained, C, could go off at any time with a mistake? Now, obviously, police officers are still simply human beings. There's no two ways about it. They're going to make mistakes. We know that. We're not going to get into the whole, well, how come they are not prosecuted nearly as often or as animately as the general populace, because that's a whole other thing for later. But in areas where there are people who are freely carrying, especially concealed carrying, pistols, and they want to think that they are, by that very right, deputies or deputized people to take care of law enforcement or the public safety, do I really want to trust that these people know how to do the right thing? Just because you have a blanket carry right or permit doesn't necessarily mean that you've got what it takes to make the right call if and when the time should happen. There's one other piece. Who should be allowed, and I'm going to use this very strongly worded choice of phrases, who should be allowed to publicly execute another person? We know full well that a death penalty given by a state agency or even a federal agency has its place that's been put in, whether right or wrong, whether legal or not, whether moral or not. I'm not getting into that. I'm posing the question. If someone with a gun shoots and kills another person with a gun, or worse, an innocent bystander, who's supposed to take the rap for it? Or is it just yet again another, oh well, it's just the price of doing business because can't take away our guns because, well, reasons. And one other thing. Do you know how many people were killed on D-Day? Do the math sometime. And over here in the US, find out how many D-Day deaths compared to how many mass shooting deaths. I got news for you. Those are not good numbers. Maybe I'll run those numbers and bring them up for you for next week. It's episode 265 on the docket, Your Honor. The only good thing about this presidency is that we have gotten a lot of people who are very, very, very suddenly aware that, I don't know that I should really trust what you're saying. Citation, please. It doesn't happen nearly often enough, but it's happening quite a bit, as a matter of fact, including the supposed attack on an oil tanker supposedly by Iran, which has gotten a whole bunch of people to go, excuse me, could you show us your proof on this? Thank you. We'd really like for you, Mr. Government Personality, to show us your proof, especially when the operator of said boat said, yeah, no, that's not what happened.
And the Potemkin comes to mind?
Mm-hmm.
Amongst others, but we'll deal with a good bunch of these pieces. Unfortunately, I have no new information on Raif Badawi and his situation in Saudi Arabia. I have seen that there have been people who have been writing about him, and I have seen more pieces of information about what's going on with others who are in similar plight. Unfortunately, however, I have no specific news on him. And I did the numbers, just a little bit before I got everybody together. As of the recording of tonight's show, it has since been 6 years, 11 months, 29 days since Raif Badawi was unjustly incarcerated for thought crimes as of June 17th, 2012. Our thoughts and our hopes are still with you and your family. You will probably never hear us, but we are still waiting, and we're still hoping, and we're still pushing the best that we can where we can. And we're sorry we can't do more. So what Joseph mentioned is one of those pieces that is true. The United States has, unfortunately, a long and sordid past with, I believe the expression, Joseph, is wag the dog, correct?
Yeah.
You want to explain it to folks, or shall I?
I'll go ahead.
I was really hoping you weren't going to say that.
Yeah.
Short version, wag
Your
the doll. Yeah, but I've got lackeys. I could pawn the... You know what? Fine. Wagging the dog is a long-standing... I can't believe I'm going to say it this way. Tradition for basically manufacturing a new piece to get everybody's attention when it's just started for the exact reason of taking advantage of everybody else's, ooh, look, shiny, and direct them away from what's the actual meat and potatoes of a news cycle. Usually stuff that's far and away more important. Far and away more important.
And the scariest part about it is that it works.
That's not the scary part. The scary part is that it consistently works.
Mm-hmm.
Brigid, you and I are old enough that we've lived through, let's see. The ones that I can think of would be Vietnam, Gulf War. Well, all right, let's be fair. Gulf War I, there was an actual invasion that happened. Yeah. And we went in there to try to overwhelm and get the A-10s, the big opportunity to go out there and turn a whole bunch of tanks in the middle of the desert into slag.
Yeah.
So Gulf War II, where I don't know if you were watching it, but I was watching the mission brief, the security briefing, and I'm looking at the UN, and I'm looking at Colin Powell, and I'm thinking, he doesn't look comfortable. He looks like somebody that was basically told, you're going to go in there and this is what you're going to say. I don't care what you believe.
Yeah, you're going to go in there and lie your ass off.
Mm-hmm. I think security briefings, that sounds
which
diapers.
That's it sounds more like a it's just propaganda. Which one of those two wars was it where they were talking about that soldiers went into this building and they saw I don't know, it was something to do with babies being ripped from their cribs and executed or some BS like that. And years later, the whole thing turned out to be nothing more than, well,
yeah, it was Gulf War II.
Oh yeah, so Gulf War II.
Yep.
I remember watching that, and I was horrified. I was shocked that, like, okay, this is a government that does this. And then I find out years later that the whole thing had been, to quote the Orange Man, fake news.
Yeah.
And, to dovetail onto what we're supposed to be talking about tonight, if there's one thing amongst a few that this presidency's been good for, it's that the term fake news has come up and that people are being a little more scrutinizing. At least some of us are looking at things with a little more scrutiny, a little more, let's just say we're looking at it with sharper eyes, I think.
Yeah. The sad part about that, though, is that we know full well it's pushing the extremes out of the middle more, as in those of us that would tend to be a little bit more critical of what we're taking in, we're looking a little bit more often. And those of us that are more willing to just take in whatever are just taking it in and tending to isolate themselves into those pockets more, which is annoying, to put it mildly.
Yeah, there are people who definitely, I hear talk around the water cooler, if you will. And of course, by the time it reaches the water cooler people, I've already seen, probably 10 articles on the same thing. A lot of them ripped apart by independent journalists who don't follow a narrative. They want to get both sides of the story so they can sort of reveal all, so that you can actually get to the facts. Now, notice I didn't say truth, but to actually get the facts, and then from there, see exactly what happened. You've got facts, you've got context, you've got the situation, and then you finally arrive at something. And like, it's amazing. Like I'll see an article on Facebook that somebody's retweeted. This one friend I have who retweets everything. And I'll be like, I saw something on that 3 days ago. And as a matter of fact, they ripped apart that particular article as being either faked, overly biased, spun to hell, or in one particular case, the headline was designed to shock you to the point where you would be so mad. I think they bet on that you wouldn't read the article, because if you read the article, it debunked itself. It actually debunked its own headline. This was the New York Times, formerly a bastion of journalism as we used to know it back in the day. And they printed an article with a shock headline, but when you read the details of it, it debunks itself. Who the hell is running a company like that?
Corporate?
See, well, and the funny part of it is, and I say funny as in the funny part about it is that, yeah, that's the problem. These things are run with corporate interests, i.e. capitalist interests, i.e. if you're not making enough money to put out your product, you can't continue to put out your product, so you have to find the equivalent of new and improved every time.
Well,
wait, can I stop you there? It's not about, that's a nice argument that, save the product, but it's actually more about profits and profit margins.
No. That's exactly what I'm playing into. Yeah. It all comes down to a matter of that. What's the expression? Blood sells. Sex sells.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So any opportunity to get the flash in the pan right in front of everybody's eyeballs and pull them in with the equivalent of clickbait, where in this case the clickbait is, well, the click is actually selling a subscription, selling a magazine, selling a newspaper. I know, kids, newspapers. Look them up. That's what it comes down to. And if you don't, you go out of business because you've got no money, which means that it's not about the facts nearly as much as it's about making the dollar and whatever that entails. And if that means taking the facts and spinning them in order to make a profitable day, that's what you end up doing. And that's the model. Yeah. Now, like Dalan said, we're going to say facts because using the term truth is unfortunately too subjective. The facts are facts. Numbers are numbers.
Yeah.
What you say with them is called spin, and data can be spun any way you want, depending as to how you present them.
And also how you want to present them.
Exactly. And it's annoying as all hell. And forgive me, I'm going to be go ahead and talk a second while I go ahead and read over what's going on with chat.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, what would be somebody's motivation to do that, to spin a story?
What are you? Question. Whoa, I'm sorry. Did you not even hear? Money, greed, absolutely. By and large, when all is said and done, greed.
Yeah. Let me take a stab at that one while you're looking in the chat. So, okay. So the New York Times runs an article that basically comes out, Orange Man bad, all of Orange Man's politics bad. Don't vote for Orange Man, vote for this person. Now, call me tinfoil hatty, but could it be that, this person or this group of people have said, hey, if you subtly promote our ideals or, continue with the Orange Man bad narrative, here's a little something for your trouble. I'm not saying bribery, but what I'm saying is that, and maybe too, they're running this narrative to show what side of the political fence they're on, in the hopes that when the next election comes around and, their side wins, they'll be looked on a little more favorably. It sounds like a bit of pandering. It sounds petty, but then again, when you're desperate for sales, but that doesn't always work. There's a lot of online, I don't know if you can really call them news sites. They're seeing massive layoffs right now because they were chasing narratives. They were chasing certain things that, well, basically they got busted on their own stuff. They got busted for fake news. They got busted for bad spin, and they've lost the trust of people. And now they're laying people off left, right, and center. So expect lots of blogs in the future from these people who got laid off because, well, they got to make that Patreon money somehow.
There are some who have been bastions in journalism over the years, the old timers who have since retired from the mainstream press. We'll just call it that. From being anchors on TV or writing for magazines or newspapers or whatnot, who they put in their time and they're basically ready to retire, and they've gone ahead and they've said, you know what? Yeah, I'm not done. And I'm specifically thinking of Dan Rather, who he got done doing his time. He retired from the TV scape, and he basically said, you know what? No, I'm not done. There's still news to write. There's still stories to be told. There's still a position to be placed out there, and there's still education to be given. And he's got his thing going on Facebook, where he's still doing his writing. He's still taking apart the journalism that he can do and writing his pieces. And he's just one of the bigger names. I mean, oh God, what the hell was his name? Walter Cronkite.
Mm-hmm.
If Walter Cronkite had been had been alive through how things are today, and still a relatively spry 60s, early 70s, I could guarantee you he'd still be writing today if he were in this position. Because I mean, these are people who knew what the hell they were doing and knew how to take a news article apart and actually go, okay, here are the facts.
Yeah, I honestly do wonder these days how many of these so-called journalists actually are journalists. Like, okay, it's one thing to call let's say their education into question, but that's kind of pushing it though, because let's face it, you've got book smart and you've got street smart. But how many of these, so-called journalists have been in the thick of it? Have they gone to other countries? Have they, like, if they consider themselves an international correspondent, have they actually gone anywhere outside of their bedroom or office? No. I don't even care about continent or city.
Okay.
I'm talking about these morons who say, oh, yes, this has been widely discriminated against, or this has been widely called out because they found one jagoff on Twitter who just happened to be a little bit ticked off at the situation. And again, this has happened where a journalist will write a humongous piece that's, they call it an article. It's nothing more than a gigantic op-ed based on a couple of people who said something on Twitter. Really? And in the meantime, I've heard of other people who, they have been shot at in the Middle East while trying to cover a story. Other people had things thrown at them while covering a riot. These are the people I would more respect because they're in the thick of it. You mentioned Dan Rather. Wasn't he embedded during the Vietnam War?
You know what, Brigid? Perfect opportunity. You would know a little bit better than us. It is not complete. It has been a long-standing tradition, at least for the U.S., to have people from the news media with the Army and Navy and the Air Force and the Marines, and maybe not so much the Marines, but to actually report live in person what the hell's been going on sometimes.
Yeah. I don't know how I can elaborate on that, but
yeah, no, but news from the front. I mean, that was,
that's what war correspondents did.
Yeah. Now the cynic in me says, well, they were doing it, just to show our brave men and women in battle. But at the same time, to be able to tell that story.
Yeah.
And to say that, I was there, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah. Let me, I'm going to take actually, Tech, I'm pretty sure that you would probably appreciate this as much otherwise. I remember the time that I remember, the earliest that I remember this kind of thing, this embedded journalist thing, if you will, was specifically a fictional TV series where they literally did that. And I'm wondering if you necessarily remember it when they did it on MASH back in the 70s.
So I was actually born in the late 70s, but I did watch the reruns because I actually enjoyed the show. And yeah, I do remember. And it was a little weird because I remember on many, and not just those, but many episodes of MASH, I would ask my mom and dad, I was like, was it really like that? Was it really like that? Was it really like that? Because my dad, he didn't get to go to Vietnam. He got washed out, medically discharged. My mom grew up in a military family, Army, Air Corps, and Army. And they both said that a lot of the things that you see in MASH, if you take the humor out of it, you look at any of our wars in the past, and the only difference was the technology.
Yeah. And
there was one episode in specific that I got to see that you and I both agree is a damn good episode. And that the one where the Padre had said war is hell. and they disagreed with him.
Yeah, Hawkeye.
Yeah, it's true. And I will go hunting down to put into the show notes. I'm pretty sure at least some of the particular episode I'm thinking of is available on YouTube. So I'll see what I can do about linking in the information to that. Now, to get this onto a little bit more onto the point, current day, we've been dealing with a lot of trying to figure out who is actually telling the facts with as little spin as possible, without trying to get into the truth. And yes, I'm doing the whole scare quote thing, although I'm not really doing the scare quote thing. You can just hear it. And with the current federal administration, we know full well that from the get-go of the current administration, there have been fabrications.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not doing soft language with this administration.
No.
There have been demonstrated and provable lies.
Yes, I was going to get to that. I was going to build into, but yeah. All right, we'll just go ahead.
I'm sorry. Trump doesn't leave room to build into shit. Unless he knows he's not going to pay somebody, then he gets them to build stuff.
Oh, you found it, did you?
I did.
Okay. The full episode?
No, just the about a 45-second clip showing the actual conversation.
Okay. Wait, which one? Which one is that?
The news reporter or the
War
in Hell is Hell?
War is War and Hell is Hell.
Yeah, okay. No. Then I'm going to have to find mine later. Okay. I'm sorry. I thought Dalan actually found the episode that I was thinking of. He's finding the War is Hell clip, which is okay. That's fine. No, that's actually good. We'll put that one in there. Anyway, but yes, consistently lying, blatantly lying from the very get-go. When Spicy came out, was all upset because number of people out there to see the thing, the walk and the parade. Some people who are listening are not going to get this, but those of you that are watching right now, you'll appreciate this. Yeah, Sean, tell us another one. Why don't you? Go ahead and do it. But the thing of it is, we are getting now, more than in recent memory, like I said, a bigger and bigger split, unfortunately, of people who are more and more wanting to dig to find out what the hell is going on, to find, in some cases, the meta of it all. Why are you telling this lie? Why is this lie important? What is this lie actually taking information away from? And what is it hiding behind its curtain? Which is good. These are all good questions. Always good to know these things. But we're also getting the people who are just soaking it up and saying, yep, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to believe everything that I'm told because I'm being told from a source that I trust. And that's the big difference, isn't it? Where those of us who are in much more of the skeptical community are the ones who are, yes, I trust the source, but I'm still going to go ahead and I'm still going to ask questions and I'm still going to double check and I'm still going to make sure that everything is the way that it's supposed to be. Do I believe PolitiFact? Yes. Am I going to re-reference and make sure everything is as good as it can be? Yeah. Versus somebody that's just going to go ahead and say, well, politihack.com says that it's this way and I'm going to trust them because I trust them. No, that's not how this works.
But you see what's going on here. It's once again coming back to choosing either to be responsible to make your own value judgments, to decide for yourself what's good, bad, safe, or whatever, or relying on somebody else to do all that for you. And I really think there's That's the dividing line.
It is. The biggest problem about that, though, is the ignorance of not knowing that you don't know. We can't even say it's the Dunning-Kruger effect at that point. It's just not being educated enough, not being exposed enough, I guess is probably the best way, to even know that there is more of the question. Because
You have to want it.
Yes, exactly so. And there are far and away too many people who are willing to be, and I've said this before, I absolutely did. If I could eliminate one thing, just wipe it off the face of the planet, one thing, I know full well that I would be sorely tempted to wipe out cancer in its entirety across the face of the planet. If I had one wish, that would be a very, very close one. But I have said consistently, and I will keep saying it, I would eliminate willful ignorance.
But you're right. Is it willful? I mean, going back to what you said earlier, if people don't know any better, they don't have that choice.
That is correct. Willful ignorance that he's talking about are people who refuse to acknowledge things, though. It's one thing to say, and somebody come and go, hey, what do you know about eggs? And they have never heard of eggs before. Okay, that is not knowing because they've never been exposed to eggs. They don't know what eggs are. They've never heard of the concept. They have no idea. Eggs, what the heck are you talking about? Now, if they're surrounded by chicken farms and they're refusing to acknowledge the existence of chickens or eggs because they don't whatever, that's willful. Unless they have literally something that can be demonstrated that they have some kind of mental disconnect that literally does not allow them to recognize eggs, then it is willful.
But whether that refusal, I mean, it would seem that they think that their very survival depends on their not looking.
But it doesn't matter if they think that their survival depends on not looking. At that point, it's still willful.
Yeah, perfect example are the Flat Earth Society people who have seen all of the evidence. They have been shown photography. They've been shown movies. They've been shown the curvature of high power transmission lines across the water. They have been shown
GPS. Hello.
Well, never mind even GPS stuff that can be replicated. I
got a good one. They were talking about how certain quotes in the Bible helps prove flat Earth, and Ken Ham set them straight on that.
Yeah, the one I was thinking of was I forgot who it was. That I think it was. Shoot, I don't remember if it was Pythagoras, it was Archimedes, or who the hell ever it was who did the sun shadow test to find out how different is the shadow at one stick here versus another stick there, taken at the same time, and then they calculated the circumference of the Earth within, I forget if it was like within about 16%, I think is what it was.
Which was very high for doing it by hand with very archaic tools in considering today's technology. Yeah,
exactly. So
this stuff our ancestors was able to. I'm reminded of a graph I looked at, and the graph showed the technological curve, the evolution of technology, how it changed, the advances that were made, and everything else, and how it was, what kind of incline it was over time, yada yada yada. And what it shows is it goes like this. It kind of like starts low and it starts to curve up, and then it drops down and stays put for a while, and then starts to come back up again. That drop down was the Dark Ages, aptly named. And it's huge because it existed for a long period of that time. Existed for a long period of time, in consideration to many other periods. And
when you're done, I've got one note on that.
And the common question is, where would that curve be if religion hadn't gotten in the way?
Yeah, I've always liked that one also. I've changed my opinion on that particular model also, because
there can be a lot of give and take. It depends on where they pulled their statistics from.
Well, yes, but
yeah, there's lots of room for manipulating that graph, but it does set a good tone that there was a period that everything dropped.
There's Dark Ages denialists too. I mean, if you look at the Wikipedia article, I had a bit of an argument with people there, actively trying to deny that the Dark Ages, that, there was technology, people were reading, and
you could die, get murdered by the church back then.
Yeah. They dominated every aspect of life.
And couldn't you also get put in jail or worse for even reading the Bible back then?
That's a good question, because there are some parts of the United States, some sects with the first colonies there, who actually forbade reading. They said that reading was the thing of the devil. And I'm wondering if the Middle Ages was the same way. That would explain a lot of the illiteracy.
Well, it would stand to reason. I mean, what's the common phrase? The best way to become an atheist is to read the Bible. It's kind of the same thing. Like, I imagine if people could read it without, pain of death or whatever, they could look at it and go, "What the hell did I just read?" At which point they would then be beheaded because, Mr. Dude with big hat says, no, you must. It doesn't matter what that says, it's what I say. Which, again, is kind of a thing in itself when you think about it.
Yeah.
But it's again the same thing. These people, they want you to rely on them to tell you what's good and bad and whatever.
Yeah.
It's just totalitarianism.
And especially these days, they make it... So they've made society so wantonly illiterate. Like, there are people these days, we've seen them. They sit on the internet and post about how science is bad. I almost equate these same people who drive a diesel vehicle to go to an anti-oil protest, or to go to a mining protest with their face full of facial piercing that looks like, I've used this 1,000 times before, that somebody smashed them in the face with a tackle box.
My personal favorite are the ones who protest child labor, and they're standing there in their Uggs with their iPhones, and there's Starbucks coffee and their special plastic cups made in China.
Yep.
And wearing the designer clothes that came from the places that they're protesting. And they don't realize that what they're wearing is help employ a whole bunch more children.
But Tech, these are the same people that got nailed on the dihydrogen monoxide deal with Penn and Teller bullshit.
Yeah.
My personal favorite was when I don't know if it's still on the air, but the Man Show was on the air, and they did the whole gag where they went out and put a table up, and they were getting people to sign a petition to end women's suffrage. And when they asked, well, what's that? And they answered with, well, we're trying to end the suffrage of women. And people fell for it. One little old lady went up to them and goes, what you're doing is wrong. And I wish I could hug that little old lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. This piece over here, by the way, Stephanie. Yeah, I did see it. And yeah, spot on. Stephanie was saying the Bible was in Latin. Now, I also want to make sure that we understand when Latin was a thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Just I'm adding that to what she's saying over here. She's saying the Bible was in Latin. People were literate. I can't talk tonight.
Literate.
People were literate. I'm literate. I just can't, for the life. I cannot syllable tonight.
You're literate, but you're not eloquent.
Sure. Yeah. Elocution is a good
elocution.
He know word, but he can't word.
Right. All right. People were literate a lot more than you realize, but not literate in Latin. True. And therein lies part of the problem. My father-in-law was a member of the Roman Catholic Church, was a member of Knights of Columbus, And I remember my wife having told me that he was upset when in the 60s they went from hosting Mass in Latin into local language, as in specifically English here in the US. Because he was a little bit more of a traditionalist, he didn't keep complaining about it, but that was a thing. And if your supposed instruction manual is in a language that you don't understand, but someone else you trust can translate it for you, you're going to trust their translation because, well, that would mean that you'd have to invest in actually learning a whole other language in order to read the instruction manual. Whether they're telling you right or wrong, well, that would involve actually investing the time and effort in learning a whole other goddamn language.
And see,
especially freaking Latin.
And that's the thing. When somebody flaunts their power or their authority, they have the book, and you can't understand that's what's in it. And they say, well, this is what's in it. And if you don't do what I say, the church, this huge organization that exists over a very vast distance, but has demonstrated their power time and time again, and does not hesitate to demonstrate that power, regardless of whose life it will take. Should they go that far, you listen, because you don't want your daughter or your son carted away. You don't want your wife or husband carted away. You don't want your family to be slaughtered and have your burned down or die in a fire. You didn't have a lot of support,
and that's the thing too, is that even if someone with a more critical eye would go, okay, so you're the only one who understands the book. If we don't do what you say, you're going to come after me. If I try to learn the language in which that book is written, you're going to come after me. That's a pretty big alarm bell that you're full of crap, sir.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the fear, they will take everything away. Or, if you're more highborn, I will lose my station. Ye gods,
Yeah,
if you can appeal to what somebody could potentially lose, the fear of that supersedes any kind of rational, wait a minute, back that shit up, buddy. Let's look at this.
Yeah, to that end, Stephanie had also said, and thank you, Shujin, rather like modern Islam. If you don't comply and learn to just read the words in a language that you don't understand and read back the phonetics, we will hurt you or kill you. And the sad part of it is, Steph, it ain't just Islam that's done that. Over here in the States, we've had kids who were literally beaten to death because they couldn't read back a passage from the Christian Bible by rote, by memory. And if memory serves, it was a kid in single digits of age beaten to death by their couple of years older sibling on order of the parents.
We've had kids beaten to death or murdered because the adults, the aged, because they're not acting in adult behavior, but killed their own kids because they felt that, oh, if God doesn't want me to, God's going to say something.
But it goes beyond religion. I mean, they did the same thing. The communists, if you didn't conform, was basically a death sentence.
Well, communism by default requires everybody to conform.
Well, you know what I mean. It's like, quote unquote communism, like China's communism.
Right. In this case,
it's a dictatorship.
Right.
Yeah,
and
China's more of a dictatorship. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Because for those of you that want to be pedants about it, we know, communism is an economic doctrine. What Tech was trying to get across with the luggage with this one was totalitarianism.
Thank you. I'm
because
sorry.
no, that's perfectly understandable. I mean, we've said it before. How many times? Like almost freaking every time. Sometimes
We make mistakes.
No, more than that. We don't even realize how much baggage a word has got until all of a sudden, oh yeah, by the way,
Yeah.
I mean, how
And
many?
see, the interesting thing about communism is that a society that agrees upon it as a whole could actually potentially, I've never seen it, potentially make it work. But then again, none have ever demonstrated it to do so, because the only ones we've seen were headed by basically dictatorship governments. And I don't even know, I'm not an economics expert, so I may be missing something that would say definitely that it wouldn't work. That's where the economics people come into play.
The second somebody says, I will help oversee the logistics, it breaks.
Yeah.
Because one person is now elevated above the community. That's it. Game over. Which means,
unless you take turns.
No,
well,
because
really?
you still elevate one person or one group above the rest. The second you do that, the model of communism breaks. Communism cannot have a leader, cannot have a supervisor, cannot even have a boss, because it's all communal. There cannot be an overseer. Otherwise, again, it breaks. And again, and if the overseer says, okay, you know what? Yeah, I control all of this entire commune. We're going to focus all of our energy to the war machine. Hi, my name is Stalin.
Yeah, the only groups that I can think of that did it to the best of my knowledge, and admittedly, my knowledge on this is kind of off, would be the First Nations, the Native Americans. From what we might recall, and admittedly, the information is rather suspect in a lot of ways. A lot of the first peoples,
First Nations, I think
I
think that's safe enough.
Okay, the native populations, yes, they had groups where you had a leader that directed. Admittedly, there was something
I
where
wouldn't call that communism.
Okay.
I see where you're going with it. But,
yes. Where the idea was that everybody worked together, everybody pooled their resources, everybody succeeded together. And like I said, what I know is suspect at best in a lot of ways, unfortunately, but the model I think was workable here on North American soil before there was a lot of the infighting with different things. And the funny part of it is I'm thinking to myself now, you know what? You need to shut the frick up at this point, because you're drifting way the hell off from where you wanted to be. So I'm going to shut up and give you guys an opportunity to close this avenue down before we kind of pull back.
Let me toss one thought out there. Because, and again, I speak from mostly ignorance, but just based on what little history I remember from what I was taught in school. The tribes had a chief, or each tribe had a chief. So the chief was an authority. However, again, like you said, people got together, they worked together. You had the hunters, you had the people that prepped, that took the resources and did something with it. I would hazard to call it a benevolent dictatorship.
Oh.
Whereas you had a leader who was the authority, but everybody still worked together. And if one person was, being a dick or something like that, it was handled. I don't know if I would call it communism, though. Because
all
again,
the
you
things
still had that.
aside,
You still had an authority figure who was above everybody else.
The chief was the chief because he was also the most experienced. It's really an experience-based.
Almost a meritocracy. Almost.
Well,
Almost.
that's it. Yeah, I think that's the closest thing, a meritocracy.
Yeah.
and kids, if you've been following along, good, because there will be a quiz later.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
quiz.
failed mine repeatedly. It took me many times.
Now again, I admit, like Shujin did, I admit a lot of ignorance on this. I only go off of, again, what little history I know. If anybody decides they want to call me out on it, you know what? Fine, please let me know
Teach
where I
us.
screwed up. Yeah, let me know where I went wrong. And if you tell me to educate myself, I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself. Because no, you want to call me out, then you set me straight. That's your responsibility.
Yeah, and Stephanie's just put a piece over here, and then we're gonna kind of close off this particular rabbit hole. Chiefs were elected; people followed them for just as long as it suited them, and that makes sense. Like I said, what little I know, I think it was more a matter of that the chief was basically the divining rod that said, "We're going this way, okay, that's the way that we're going. All right, let's do that," and go from there and just be.
But
done
the other
with it.
thing she said too, it works in small groups where everyone knows everyone knows everyone else for just as long as there are social controls to maintain order. So, this is why the block party works, but the city party doesn't. No. She's got the right of it. She's got the right of it. You know, in small groups, and again, something like a communist state, it does require a bit of. Actually, it requires a metric shit ton of social cohesion. You know,
Conformism.
Sorry,
conformism.
Not necessarily, because
I was going to say not in a bad way though.
Oh,
no, because you have an expectation to be part of this group. I can see where you're coming from with it, but
yes, but I think where we're going is you're part of the group because you want to be part of the group. You want to contribute. You want to be contributed to. You want to be you respect the responsibility that comes with being in a communal group. Whether that qualifies as communist, I don't necessarily know, because there's a lot of these pieces of the economic model that I don't get.
Yeah.
But I think you understand where I'm coming from at this point, Joseph. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was my bad. I was I was referring to communism, quote unquote communism, like Russian communism, and not quote unquote real communism.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of it falls down, is where a lot of people these days, they talk about, well, they weren't real communists, and I mean it's the biggest no true Scotsman fallacy I've ever heard.
We kind of have to stop doing that, because, like, for example, like religion, they use the word morals to describe their dictatorship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like the communists, the Russians, they use communism to describe their fucking brand of totalitarianism.
See, I believe the term is lead fist and a velvet glove.
See, that's an interesting concept. Can you have a totalitarianistic theocracy and still have it be morally objective?
Whoa, where are you going?
Well, wait a minute.
Or not morally objective. What the words are not coming to my brain. In other words, can you have a religion who basically their rules are nothing more than a dictatorship in a book, and can you still have morals to go along with it? I guess it's all how it's written, right?
I think you can. And I think we do to this day. We do have moral societies that are theocratic. The problem that arises is those theocracies, their sets of morals, many of them conflict with what we would consider moral. It's all a matter of perspective.
I think some of their morals conflict with themselves too.
I wouldn't call them
Yes.
morals at all. Morals is what? It's deciding yourself what's right and wrong or good or bad. That's what
And
morals are. If somebody else decides for you, it's not morals anymore.
What would
and
what would be the proper word then at that point if somebody else is defining their morals as rules that you need to follow?
Dictate.
Okay. Wanted to make
Well,
sure we were on the same page.
yeah.
so let's backtrack a little bit and kind of get back onto track, because, like I said, what Tech did at that talk with the guy from Microsoft, which, after hearing that story, I am both thrilled to hear about a story like this and simultaneously cringing on the inside, because I really feel bad for the guy that was on the receiving end of that, because he was probably a lackey that didn't know how to deal with the question. So let me explain how this how this kind of plays out again. Actually, let me do it this way. Tech, can you give a real quick strip down, just to bring folks back up to speed as to what it was that happened and how it happened?
So I worked retail at the time, and I would go to various presentations on particular products. One of the presentations I used to go to on a regular basis was anything that got released by Microsoft, including one of their flight games and everything else. I used to love the talks because I'd be able to learn about the products and sell them better. Basically, make sure that the person needed them.
Tighter.
And this particular one was a new version of Microsoft Office. I forget what the number was. And they were demonstrating that Clippy was dead, to be replaced by smart tabs. Smart tabs, you're typing, suddenly this tab shows up where you're typing, and it gives suggestions and a whole bunch of other stuff. Think of Clippy, but now inlined with a whole bunch of options. Really freaking annoying for me. I asked him, how do you turn it off? He told me that was a bad question. And then he proceeded to ignore me and ask somebody else what their question was.
How dare you question?
Exactly.
Well, it's not even that. It's a matter of that we don't have an answer that you're going to like, because the answer is probably you can't.
Now,
More
here's
than
the
likely.
thing. The guy had told me, look, nobody's ever asked me that question before, and I didn't see it in my initial guide for this presentation, but you give me your contact information. Anybody else who wants to know the answer to this, give me your contact information. I will look it up, and I will send you the info. I would have respected that man heavily.
Okay, now here's the reason why I'm using that setup. Collectively, and I'm speaking in generals, I know it, I'm probably going to get in trouble for it later, but I think I can properly say, in general, most skeptics, and I would say very likely a high percentage of skeptics, would more graciously accept the answer, I don't know, to I'm not even going to address the question.
I would have accepted I don't know.
Yeah.
Yep. And I forget who it was that said it. Wasn't it Feynman who said, I would rather have questions that can't be answered rather than answers that can't be questioned.
Yeah. Now, to borrow a phrase that we've used many times, and I still need to get the original source for it, but to be fair, you're showing off now. Tech, I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate here, but so Microsoft is showing off a new feature.
Yep, and they hired a bunch of people through contract organizations.
Yeah,
with their material and stuff. So you're basically hiring lackeys, like you pointed out, who gets a package and they have to spiel from the package. Yeah. I understood that going into it. I understood that I may not get the answers to my questions.
But here's the other piece of it. They're showcasing this feature, these smart tabs. And somebody asks them, okay, how do you turn it off? Now, if they'd actually, let's say they showed you how. Let's say, you go to tools, options, whatever, and you do it. I guess where I'm coming from it is if you know how to turn it off and you've got a bad feeling that nobody's ever going to use it, then why would that suddenly be the showcase of your entire product? You see where I'm going with this?
There is nothing negative about somebody asking, hey, look, where's the off button for this feature? Okay, because there are going to be people out there who don't want that feature. They just want to be able to type. They just want to be able to print. I've met plenty of people like that, people who are simple in their needs. They don't need advanced features. They don't need things talking to them. They don't want pop-ups happening. They just want to type, print, and call it a day. There are other people who would definitely take advantage of the feature and have, but I have to prepare. This is not a guy who's trying to sell to a crowd of users or clients. This is a person trying to market to more salesmen and women who need to know the knowledge that that person is supposed to have, so that way we can thereby validate the users who are and clients who are going to be purchasing it and are going to be using it for their client. If they say, if I had a user after that presentation come up to me and go, hey, how do we turn this off? And me, I'm the sales rep, and they're going to be the end user, and I'm going to have to support them in their IT work, I'm going to need to know that answer.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why context matters. I wasn't aware that it was strictly for people who are going to be marketing the software. I was under the impression that you were going to... No, this was
not an Apple thing. This was a presentation for people who work in sales.
Okay. Now that I know that, suddenly it all makes sense. So
I thought, I apologize. No. I did make an assumption, which makes an ass out of me. And
that's kind of a low bar, you know.
Yeah, I know. But I thought that when I said that I had worked retail and that I was going to a show to learn about the product and to promote the product, that it was evident that this was a show for people who sell the product.
But of course, my head was still thinking of BlizzCon. So,
and again, so it's my fault. I made an assumption, and we see the results of it.
Oh, but still, we got the context. We got to figure it out. All good.
Yep. Now, the reason why I wanted to get back to this and use this as the stepping off point for the last half hour or so that we've got is Tech went ahead and said, "Okay, here's my question." Person that was supposed to be running the thing said, "Next question," sidestepped, and she's like, "Okay, I'm out because I'm not going to get another question in because you're not gonna." Because that's kind of the way that those Q&As work. And he found out afterwards that other people went ahead and did the same thing and asked the same question and asked the same question and asked the same question because they didn't get an answer. And we've got this problem right now with this administration that we've got here in the US, where there are a lot of people who would really, really like, if ever there is finally another damn press, I'm just really pissed off about that whole damn thing anyway. There is not nearly as much press interaction as there really should be. There's literally dust on the press room podium because it gets used so infrequently currently. Yeah, let that one sink in for a second. But there are people who have been saying, look, if the press person doesn't want to give the answer, okay, use your time to ask the question to ask for an answer of the last question and keep hammering away with the same question until they either give up or they give you the damn answer. And unfortunately, this would be the right way to do it, except as we talked about earlier, when you are in a situation where you need to get sales, you need to have something unique. So you need to get your own answers for your own questions to put out your own product that's different from everybody the hell else's, so that solidarity doesn't happen nearly as often as a lot of us would like. And therein is where part of the skeptical part comes in. There are more and more calls for exactly that situation to have happen. You didn't answer his question. Answer his question. You didn't answer their question. Answer their question. You didn't answer her question. Answer the question.
And worse, we've had cases, documented cases, where people have gone to their local representatives in an open meeting, open forum meetings and things like that, town halls and so on and so forth, where they were given the floor and they were allowed. And in those scenarios, you're supposed to be able to ask any question as long as you're not being belligerent, harassing, vulgar, those sorts of things. And there were several documented Republican leaders, public office holders, who, when they were asked questions that they didn't want to answer, they told them, look, if you ask that question again, I'm going to have you arrested and thrown out of here. Or I'm going to have you thrown out. Or I'm going to have you escorted away by the police. You know, those sorts of things. Real threats that many of them actually carried out because they didn't want to answer the questions that the public had. As a public servant, that's your duty.
I'm sorry, Tech. We had a little bit of a glitch there. There was a problem with one of those last two words that you said. Could you go ahead and make sure
It's
you
not
said
a
that
power
right?
of 10. It's not a power of 10.
I don't care.
I was biting my lip.
I don't care.
All right, fine. As a public servant, it's your fucking duty.
Remember we say context matters? Yeah, context matters.
Yeah.
And just like with MASH, actually saying on prime time in the 70s,
oh God,
you son of a bitch.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they got away with it because in context it made sense and it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. Well, you know, Tech, what you just talked about there, I've actually seen it now. Again, this was a much smaller scale, and it wasn't so much a public. This person was not a public service or servant. This was a board of directors meeting for a grocery chain that we have here that's called the Co-op. It has a certain philosophical model. There are board members and everything like that. Their workers are unionized. My ex-wife worked for them, and I was asked to attend one of the annual general meetings because I had the car. But I got to sit in on this thing, and they were electing new board members in. And one person got the mic and posed a question. The board dodged it. He still had the mic. And he just kept saying, look, I'm a voting member of this thing. I pay my dues. And he shouted, you will listen to me. And he basically took the last 45 minutes of the meeting by just arguing. So, I mean, what we've seen from this, answer the question, whatever, this is nothing new. The fact that I know there's a big separation between private and public, figures in that respect, but this kind of behavior doesn't surprise me. I've seen it before. I don't necessarily agree with it. I've just seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen it on television too. It's sad. It's really sad that we have politicians that were voted into office by the public to serve the public. And the only kind of serving they've done is bending the public over.
Yeah. And therein lies one of the biggest pieces. And it's something we've talked about. It's something that, gets under my skin often enough. Accountability from one side and responsibility from the other. The social model only works if those that accept the mantles accept the responsibility and all that goes along with it. And if the society that's accepting the authority figures hold them to be accountable. And if you don't have that, then you've got a problem. Oh, wait, we do, don't we? I'm sorry. I'm talking in abstracts when I should actually be saying, God damn it, get off your goddamn high horses, people. Maybe that's the reason why with the new Godzilla movie, maybe they had Mothra instead of Gamera, because we've got Gamera right now over in the Senate. I'm sorry. It was a cheap shot.
Yeah, it was a cheap shot, but it was still funny.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, Dalan, Doc Waxman was asking, do they have using lowercase t, the co-op in Canada? So I'm not quite sure what that one is, but I'm guessing.
If it's the if he's talking about the grocery chain, yeah, it's each one is sort of like each chain. Like here we have the Calgary Co-op, and it services it deals with all the stores in the Calgary area. We have the Edmonton Co-op. You have co-ops all over the place. Now, like the nice thing about them is that if I go shopping there, I have a member number. I paid $1 for it. If I spend enough money in that place, like with gas, groceries, etc., at the end of the year, I will get a dividend. So it's almost like cash back. And what is it they told me? If your check is worth more than $5, we'll mail it to you. Last year, I made 50 cents. Hey, look, I don't shop there normally. The quality is great, but the prices can be a little high sometimes. But they also have one of the few touchless car washes in the area, so that's kind of where I go.
That's fair enough. So that accountability piece is really where this comes down to. And Brigid, I know you haven't had much to add into all this, but I mean, from a different angle, not going with the political side for a second though, but from the medical side, because I know we're not talking about apples and apples at this point. We're talking about apples and I don't know, car brands for a second, but there are analogs. Every organization is supposed to have its machinations, its strategies, it's how things are done, its operations.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in the medical, there is accountability when somebody does something wrong, because it's in some cases very easy to see when something's been done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got
doctors can be sued for malpractice, but there's also ethics boards at hospitals, and chief surgeon who oversees things in that area.
Isn't there also
they can be disciplined if they screw up?
Yeah, isn't there also something? What is it? Morbidity and something review. Like if they lose a patient, apparently they do have to.
It is reportable.
Yeah, and they do have to. They do have to go before a board and explain themselves. Is that an actual thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's something I saw on TV, and I just I thought that's kind of.
If you have too high of a morbidity rate in a hospital, then not only insurance companies but the government will come in and investigate and try to find out why you have so many people die.
Yeah, I mean, when my wife had to go in for a liver dissection for her cancer stuff at one point, I've said this one before. The doctor had gone ahead and said that I forget exactly how he described it, because it's been a number of years now, but he basically said, this kind of surgery does have risk. The national death rate, I forget exactly what terminology used for this type of surgery, is about 12%. And then he continued on when he saw me start to grimace a little bit. My morbidity rate for this is 3%. And I had a big sigh of relief, and I was like, that's really great to hear. And I've told this part before. He then said, it's all good unless you're in that 3%.
Mm-hmm.
This was somebody who understood the responsibility of the mantle that they had and did the best that they could to make sure that that number, that risk, was mitigated as much as possible. There is no such thing as surgery without risk. I think that's safe to say, right, Brigid?
True that.
Yeah. I mean,
as somebody who's had multiple family members in the hospital for surgeries, that's exactly what I used to hear from the doctors. Is like, there is always a risk involved.
Mm-hmm.
Here is what the statistic is for this risk. If you still feel we feel the need to go forward, this risk is small or this risk is medium or whatever, but we feel the need to go forward because your condition is XYZ, yada, yada, yada. Which I always respected doctors who were telling my family members what's going on and why it's going on, what to expect, what the possibilities are, and their experience, their background, the surgeons, the people who are going to be there, everything that they could. I even had a doctor, I was accompanying a friend to the hospital who was going through a real bad time. And the friend had asked a question about something that they heard about. And the doctor's response was, well, we don't go into that because we like to practice evidence-based medicine here.
that's good.
I damn near humped that doctor's leg.
And I can't say as I blame you. There's also another piece of it. And for those of you that know or have listened to me enough times on this, you'll understand. I will also specifically single out the nurses, especially in a hospital environment, because they've got a lot of the book smart as well, and sometimes even more so, the practical side of it. For instance, and Brigid, you're going to have to help me out on this one because I've kind of drawn a blank.
Medication errors.
No, that's not the one I was going for.
No, that does happen. The doctors will overprescribe, and the nurses will catch it.
Yeah. What I was actually going to go with was kind of an opposite situation. I've forgotten what it is. The highly addictive pain medication. I think it was with an M. And I'm
Morphine.
Morphine. That's what it was. Right near the end of my wife's life, they were debating giving her morphine to help with the pain. And here's where the big difference was between the doctors and the nurses. The doctor didn't want to prescribe it to her because of the addictive qualities. And the nurse, I don't remember if it was a head nurse or shift nurse or whatever it was, I think it was a head nurse, actually went ahead and told him, we should do it because the time that she has left, the withdrawal will not be an issue. Now, that sounds cold when you think about it in the abstract like that.
No, in the abstract like that, to me, it sounds compassionate. To me, it says, look, we can consider this because this is going to provide some comfort and we don't have to worry about the side effects. So let's get as much comfort to this person as they can possibly have.
Yeah, I mean, if time is short, then addiction's not a factor.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And that's one of those situations where, like I said, having the mantle and the responsibility and recognizing that works, and having the accountability for those that understand their position, their mantle, their responsibility also works. The doctor, in normal circumstances, would have probably been in the right to say, morphine? No, because in a weakened state, having to come off of morphine afterwards, that's for someone who is immunosuppressed, who is weakened, who is battling all the stuff with chemo and radiation. Oh, hell no. And Brigid, if that were the extent of the scope at that point, I'm pretty sure that you would think, yeah, you don't want to put somebody through all that and withdrawal all at the same time for morphine of all things.
Well, I mean, not if they had, any life expectancy of, more than a few days.
Which, unfortunately, is exactly what the situation was. And the nurse to basically say, yeah, in this case, you're wrong, and lay it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes sense once you've got all that all pieced together. There's the responsibility. And therein lies the big problem of it all, isn't it? Of trying to figure out who should have the responsibility to dope slap somebody that richly deserves it, especially professionally. I mean, nurses can get into a lot of hot water for second guessing a doctor, no?
Yep. They sure can.
That rings like a little bit of experience talking there, Bridge.
Get fired real quick. Because doctors are God.
And let's not forget something very important.
Hmm.
As much as we talk up all the good ones, there are, just like in every organization, every service, every company, the bad apples. There are the nurses who don't check on whatever it is they're supposed to do, who make the bad calls. The same with the doctors, the same with the janitors or the kitchen staff or whoever. There are the good, there are the bad, they're the ugly, and there are the wonderful. So the best thing we can do, in my opinion, is continue acknowledging the good, but never forget that there is another side to the coin. And always, when we talk to our doctors, we hope that they're the best. We some people pray they're the best. But if you get a bad feeling, Brigid, what should you do?
If you get a bad feeling about your doctor, fine.
Yeah, or your nurse. You feel like the nurse isn't paying attention to the chart, or you feel like the nurse isn't paying attention to your loved one who's bedridden. If you feel that the doctor's being dismissive of a problem, what should you do? What's not necessarily the best course of action, but what are some potential options? Of course, context and scenarios are going to matter, but what can you do?
What I have done is gone down to the nurse's station myself and said, you don't want me to come across that counter.
Okay.
It works.
If I say that, I'm probably going to jail.
Dude, if you do that, you're going to have too many people laughing hard at you to get sent to jail. Who are you?
No,
kidding?
you don't understand. In person, I've been told I'm scary and creepy.
Well, I have had to do that because they were about 4 hours late with my pain medication and I was tired of buzzing them.
That's
and they
fair.
were playing cards. And I was like, you don't want me to come across that counter and get it myself. And they said, well, go back to your room and bring it. And I was like, no, you're going to put it in my hand and you're going to do it now. And they did.
See? Accountability, man.
Yeah.
Well, you have to advocate for yourself.
Yeah. There was one nurse that took care of me, and Shujin, you've met me.
Yep.
You know I'm not a small person.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
Yeah. I am positive that this particular nurse, she was great, honestly, and I feel bad because I wish I could remember her name. I think her hobby was MMA fighting.
Yeah.
Because she had a build that could probably have lifted me up with one hand. Like, basically, if I had to stay in bed and I wanted to get out of bed, it would have been palm to the chest and she would have been able to keep me there. Okay. Like, and I wanted to actually pay money to see her get into an argument with one of the doctors because I think it would have ended up with the doctor having to go to the ICU for having his nasal bone shoved up into his brain.
Well, some of them deserve it.
That's a fair point. And there was one or two that I wanted to say that to because, well, my head wasn't exactly in the best place. Looking back on it, a lot of things. I got a lot of wake-up calls about the medical profession while I was in there. And it's why I don't watch hospital dramas anymore. If you thought they were bullshit before, spend 2 months in a hospital. You'll find out just how much bullshit they really are.
They're more entertaining on television.
They're not entertaining, period. Sorry.
The comedy ones are. The dramatic comedy versions.
I was going to say, which ones are those nowadays?
MASH. Oh, today.
Yeah, that was about
it.
That was about it. And that was just because they had good writers and good actors.
True that.
Yeah.
True that.
Sorry, I think about Grey's Anatomy and the quirky thing. No, that one lost it for me when if that was a dramatic comedy, then why did somebody have their skull opened up with the Black & Decker drill? Moving on.
Do that later.
Moving on.
Yeah, we're getting pretty close to the end, and my shoulder's starting to get a little
achy breaky.
Yeah, so I want to see if I can. I'm sorry.
The achy breaky thing. I was like, don't.
No.
Don't play that song. That achy breaky song.
No.
I will kick you
I will
off.
kill you.
I love Weird Al. No, that was
you can know that I will kill you
later. Anyway, as far as to finishing this off, I'm just going to do my quick, and then I'll throw it over to you guys because I don't want to forget. As far as to this this whole piece that we kind of started with, which was the idea that skepticism is having a resurgence. I didn't think of it in the terms of there needs to be responsibility for the mantle that people accept. And that's been completely just thrown to the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
We can get away with saying we could point fingers at so many different individuals. Ashid Pai, Donald Trump, soon to be out of a job, Ms. Sanders, and Betsy DeVos, and so many others. We don't even have to look at individuals. We can simply look at a group, a collective group, and point a finger at them. Them that wants a theocracy in this country. We can just go ahead and point a finger squarely at them and say, look, you accepted a mantle. You asked for it, and it comes with a certain responsibility on your part. And if you can't hold up that end of the bargain, there's no reason why we shouldn't drag your ass out at the first available opportunity. I personally would really like to open up a nationwide FedEx delivered next day air pitchfork company, but somehow or other, I don't think that I'd be able to make that happen. I would really like to do that. And mainly because, do you know what it's like trying to send those really great Hollywood torches? Yeah, that only works in Hollywood. Those things don't work the way that you want them to in real life.
Yeah,
That's
you have
sad.
to go with tiki torches.
No.
That presents entirely the wrong image.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's already been assumed.
That's already been appropriated.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
Well done.
I can verb.
Yeah,
or is it an adjective?
You know what? At this point tonight, I can't throw
Dictionary.com.
Yeah, we'll deal with that. Tech, what last item do you want to throw out here?
It's amazing. I was not very good in history class, government class. My strengths were always the sciences and the maths. I understood numbers. I understood how 1 + 1 could equal 2, how it could equal 1. Because if you have one of the same item and another of the same item, then you only have that one of that same item. You have two quantity. So I understood how numbers could be manipulated. Statistics was interesting. Learning about values and subjective things in game theory class, all sorts of stuff was very interesting to me. And I'm looking at where we're at in the world, in my country today, and I'm getting one hell of a summer school education right now, because some of that stuff is starting to come back. This is what they meant. This is what they were talking about. This is what those people were trying to prevent. This is what they went through. And frankly, like my folks said, during certain times, they were worried about my future, of what would become of the world. I have a child. A child is prepared for life in many different ways, but he's not prepared for war. And I'm looking at how things are going, and I'm worried, because right now, nobody's giving any answers. And those are the people who are supposed to be, are the ones not giving the answers. That's a bad sign.
True that. Joseph, anything that you would like to close with?
No, I'm good. Interesting
Okay.
show. And, well, see y'all next week.
Dalan, how about you? Anything to close?
The title of the show, what is this presidency? Has anything good come of this presidency? I think three of the biggest things it's given us is, well, one, acknowledgement and exposure of so-called fake news, or the fact that there is an awful lot of spin going on. I think it's increased everyone's overall sense of skepticism, in that now when we see something, we question it, we are curious. And these days we're not being demonized for being so curious. But third, I think it's also turned a lot of people onto the political system. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, we'll find out, because a lot of people, who, 2 years ago couldn't care less about politics are now diving into it, but doing so with a large amount of naivete onto the inner machinations and how things work. To them, they see a lot of binary, a lot of black and white, a lot of, well, why can't you just do this? But if you take a look a little bit deeper, you realize there's an awful lot of nuance and other machinations going on that you can't just take a sledgehammer to. But the good thing about that awareness is that the door has been opened. And maybe not this cycle, maybe the next one, maybe even the one after that, if you're really pessimistic, people are going to become more aware of how things work, and they will learn how to work with that system so that they'll find out which candidate is indeed the best for my interests or the interests of my family. Maybe they start asking the right questions. Right now, we're in a state of complete outrage. That has to cool. And then we have to start. Look, it's great to have a head full of steam, but driving headlong with a head full of steam at a brick wall is only going to hurt you in the end. So great that you're interested, but now let's get into the nitty gritty of it, and let's figure this out. And I think more and more people are getting there these days. And if having a pompous, no package, a pompous, no platform populist, points for alliteration, in office, if that's what it took to spark it, well, I guess that's something that did come out of it.
Fair enough. And Brigid, any last item for you?
Yeah, but his term's not over yet. It could be a lot worse. And if we go to a war with Iran, it will get worse. And I don't know how we would stop him from doing that.
You know, there's a lot of things to concern over and a lot of worry. Maybe I will investigate to find out what the statutes are in selling pitchforks nationwide. Interstate travel for pitchforks. That can't be that bad.
I mean, hey, if you're looking for a startup, you know, there's always Kickstarter, GoFundMe, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
I could always
solar freaking pitchforks, man.
Yeah, you know what? I could get in touch with Andrew Torres and ask what the legalities might be.
I seriously doubt there's any kind of true restrictions on shipping pitchforks around the U.S. like there would be on, say, firearms.
Yeah, but you do need a source. You need to be able to build them, or at least have a supplier.
Yeah,
that I can understand being a problem. Sorry, go ahead.
Some kind of color scheme to them to make them stand out.
We could put the atheist molecule thingy on it.
Did you see the latest? You saw the last round of Twin Peaks?
No, I've never seen Twin Peaks.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there was this guy who was marketing shovels, shit digging shovels, and he'd just buy a load of shovels and he'd just spray paint them gold.
Well, that's
could an idea. Yeah,
I'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Maybe it would work better if I were to try and find some way of putting I don't know, feathers on the back end of it so that it'll hold its position nice as aerodynamic. That's probably really not a good selling point. Now that I think about it.
Do it red, white, and blue. Tell them it's patriotic to use the damn thing.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go with that. We'll see what happens. Meantime, like I said, I better get on out of here because it's my shoulder's not doing real good right now. So
be patriotic.
Yeah, you could be, but why would you want to sometimes? I'm sorry. Remember, it's not Captain America. It's Captain Puerto Rico. Look at his uniform.
Gimmicks. You have to have one.
I'll see.
I don't have any gimmicks.
Well, that's why you're broke.
You know, I'm feeling very never mind. So, as always, everybody, thank you very much for being with us. Hope that you found something worthwhile in all our perspectives and got something to think about as we come up into the weekend. Is there a thing going on this weekend that I don't know about?
Happy Father's Day to all you MFers out there.
I am still feeling very targeted right about now. So, okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
No, seriously, happy Father's Day to everybody.
Agreed, and right back out at you.
Thanks,
Joseph. Thank you for your morning. You have yourself a good morning, and good luck with the rest of the stuff that you've been working on.
Oh yeah, thank you, and y'all have fun. See you next week.
That's the hope.
Take care out there.
You too. Tech. Also, thank you very much. A good day for you tomorrow, I hope, as well.
Well, tomorrow's today.
Yes.
We celebrated a day early.
Good.
We missed all the rush. And so my son took me out to eat and treated and everything, and it was really nice.
Excellent. So you have yourself a good morning, man.
You too, man.
Brigid, thank you for your time. I'm glad you're able to make it. And you keep your head above water out there.
I'm going to try to. We're supposed to have rain for like the next 10 days. Yay.
Well, hey, look at the bright side. Everybody that's got a swimming pool out there has got it all filled now, right?
Oh, yeah. And then some.
Hey, if the waters drive you to Maryland, contact me. I've always got a spare bedroom.
Dude, if the water drives her all the way to Maryland from where she is, that's going to be a lot of water pushing her across the, bunch of peaks that you got between you and her out there. You know about that, right?
Could happen.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, if that fictional climate change that the Republicans say doesn't exist happens,
We're not gonna. Brigid, thank you very much for your time. Have yourself a fun day. Plug all your stuff.
Yeah. Plug all the holes, prevent the water from leaking in.
We're not gonna.
I'll send you some corks.
We're not gonna. I wasn't gonna get away with it this time, but I'm gonna get away with it. We're not gonna talk about dikes tonight. We're not gonna talk about dikes tonight. Brigid, thank you very much. Go ahead and plug yourself. I should not say that. I should not say that.
Here's a cork.
Oh, before anybody goes ahead and gives me shit about it, yes, that was completely intentional.
This is officially my favorite episode.
You're welcome. People want to get in touch with you. What do they do?
Yodel.
Next week's episode, now you've stepped in it.
I'm just going to mute myself at this point.
You can find me on BrigidFitch2112.wordpress.com.
Thank you, darling. Dalan, I don't know what to say that I haven't already said.
Exactly. Actually, bit of a word of warning. I will not be here next weekend.
Oh, no.
I will actually be in the U.S.
Oh, that's right. You're driving.
Yep. This is not for work. This is actually a little bit of vacation. Going down to see a good friend out in Idaho. I'm going to be there for a few days. Apparently staying at a cabin of some sort. I guess the place they have is like, or the place I'm checked into is like a lodge. So apparently really nice view and everything like that. So I'm looking forward to it.
It's not Silver Lake, I hope.
Sorry?
Nothing. Just making reference to a movie. Never mind.
Yeah. Okay. First chance I see somebody with a hockey mask, first thing I'm going to say, well, first question I ask, are you Canadian? And if you're not, well, then out comes the chainsaw. Anyways, but yeah, just so you know, I don't wait for me next week because I will be most likely asleep or very, very drunk. We'll see. But that being said, I do plan to get the audio version of this place up to date over at holycrapthevlogcast.com. The audio is sitting on my computer, just waiting to be fixed up. And if since I won't be able to vent here, if I'm going to vent anywhere else, that'll be over on inthewind.yo5.ca.
Thank you, man. I really do appreciate it. And you have yourself a good trip.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Fair enough. Just remember, if you see a moose, I don't know. It's probably already too late at that point.
Yeah, don't worry about stuff like that. Hey, you know where I'm from? We know how to handle these things.
Yeah. You drive faster.
Yeah.
I know. Mythbusters. I know.
Okay, if it's in front of you, you slow down. If it's behind you charging, you drive faster.
Let's go faster. Let's go faster. Let's go faster. Go, go,
Yes.
go, go, go.
Hey, Winston, pedal faster.
Yeah, there's a Firefly thing I'm thinking of, but that's a whole other thing. Anyway, of course, as always, everybody, thank you very much for being with us. If you do want to get the audio version, or if you want to get all the social media links and contact information, take a swing over to holycrapthevlogcast.com. We're, of course, over there. If you'd like to send us a voicemail message, the phone number is still 859-HCTV-554, 859-4288-554. And I will hopefully be in much better shape next week because, I'm just not really feeling real great right now. Sorry about that. But anyway, you all have yourselves a good week. We'll be looking forward to seeing you again very soon. And as always, until that time, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And of course, my lady, too damn many years later, I am still in love. Not today, Fujin. I love you. I miss you. dream of me. He's almost done with his junior year, man. So until then, you'll take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon. As always, until the next time we get together. Good night.